Welcome to On the Road with Noble Outfitters. Today we're in Amarillo, Texas at Coolhorse Farm and Ranch. Come on in and take a look. You're going to enjoy this little store.
In the mid-1800s, America was pushing west and expanding at a rate unknown to any previous civilization. Americans pursued their dreams and unlimited opportunity. But they needed food, equipment, seeds, and tack to press on beyond the established cities and towns already settled. Out of this demand, a new retailer was born, the General Store, who handled everything a westward family would need to survive. Today, these retailers provide rural Americans the same materials, service, and expertise that made them invaluable over 150 years ago. Join Noble Outfitters as we rediscover the retailing backbone of America. Hear their story in their own words, how they've not only survived, but actually thrived in the modern world. Come along as we go on the road with Noble Outfitters.
We're going to go inside and meet the founders of this family operation, a local store in good old Amarillo, Texas, Matt and Missy Harris. Come on inside, let's meet them. How are you folks?
Great.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see
Dan,
you.
how are you?
Thank you for your hospitality here today.
okay.
Welcome. Thanks for coming to Amarillo.
We'd like to introduce you to Matt and Missy Harris. They are the founders of this operation, and in a little bit they're going to tell us the story of how all this got started. But first, I'd like to spend a little time looking around the store. Would that be all right?
You bet. We'll get Stacy to help you with that. She's our purchasing manager. She's been here for a long time, and she knows these products inside and out.
Great. I'd love to meet her and love to look around, and we'll catch up with you guys a little bit later and learn a little bit more about the story.
Sounds good.
Thank you again for your hospitality.
Thank you.
You're on the road with Noble Outfitters. I'm here with Stacy Hubbard, the general manager of this store. Stacy, how long have you been with the store?
I've been here at Coolhorse since 1999, 16 years.
16 years. You must start when you were 5.
Part-time in college, yeah, and I've just stayed around since then.
I love touring these stores and going around and seeing all the different products in the stores because it's part of the fiber of America. These stores have been the supply chain of the farm and feed for hundreds of years, and they carry so many different products. I love walking through the stores and seeing all the different products they have. So if you don't mind, Stacy, walk me through and tell me a little bit about what you've got here.
I'd love to show you around. One of the things that we really like here is that in our area we do have a very strong ranching heritage. We also have a lot of the rodeo cowboys, barrel racers. So we have all the tacks, stirrups, cinches, bridles, breast collars.
You know, it's always interesting to me that the saddle is kind of like a little bit of the anchor to the store is the saddle. And I always go back to, well, the horse was the transportation. It was the truck, it was the car, it was everything. So all the stores usually have some saddles.
Yes, and saddles is something that we really enjoy here. We do a lot of new and used saddles, and that helps us. We let people do trade-ins and really opens the doors. Some folks may not be able to afford a top quality new saddle, but you can get into a really nice used saddle for the same money and have a little better fit and things like that. So we try to cater to all riders, whether they're ranching, roping. We've got saddles for everyone.
So it seems like you've got a tremendous amount of ropes too.
Yes, and ropes are an ever-evolving item. There's so much technology that goes into these ropes, most people don't understand, from 3 strands to 5 strands, different combinations of fibers. The different colors aren't just there for different color, each one have a different feel, a different strength, a different amount of stretch that helps the ropers, whether they're roping cattle in the pasture or team roping calves, they all perform a little differently.
It's amazing. It's a sport, right? And so this is kind of like part of the equipment for the sport. So if you were playing football and you had pads or helmets or shoes or whatever.
Or a golfer with his clubs.
A golfer with his clubs and balls and different things. So it's great. That's amazing. So the ropers also use a glove, and you know what's funny is they only use one, right?
Yes.
It's the right hand only. So it's interesting that when we made these rope gloves, we went to the company that was making the gloves. They said, well, it's X amount of pair. And I said, well, we don't wean it by the pair. It's only one glove. And they said, we've never seen that before.
Yeah, the roping gloves protect your right hand if you're a right-handed roper. If you're left-handed, you'd wear it on the left hand. It protects your hands and your fingers from being rope burned. And the Noble glove is really, it's a revolutionary glove in the industry. It stays on a tighter fit to your fingers, and it moves with your fingers better without having loose spots. And anywhere that the glove is loose, it can interfere with your ability to feel the rope. So the ropers have really loved this roping glove. It helps them to feel the rope, and they can control the tip and just have a better feel and a better roping experience while still protecting their hands.
Well, that's what they asked for. So what else we got to show me?
Well, we also carry things to help keep your barn and your pens and everything in top condition. We have all sorts of farm and ranch supplies. The Wave Fork has been a great new product for us here in the last few years. People really love the fact that if one time breaks, you don't have to throw the whole fork away or try to find a whole head. You can replace each piece individually. And you know, what's really surprised me is we don't have people coming in asking for replacement parts. The forks hold up great, so even though you can replace them, doesn't mean you're going to have to. The design is easy for folks to use, and people are really loving the forks.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost impossible to break one, but if one does break, you know, they're guaranteed for 5 years. Made in America, guaranteed for 5 years. That's a fork that was just missing in the industry. And in the focus groups, again, people would say, you know, it just bothers me that when I'm out there and I break my tine, it's like, oh, okay, now I gotta go to the store, pick up a fork, delay my whole day, and that's a problem.
Yeah. We like to say that we've got everything you need if you're in the Western lifestyle, whether you're riding your horse, pulling your trailer, needing new clothes to go to the rodeo. You know, we try to cover all the bases and help everyone out where they can get everything they need.
And that is the basic of the American Farm and Feed Store. I mean, where is there a store that you can buy hay and a beautiful garment? Where's there a store that you can buy some jewelry and a manure fork? It's just not the normal store. But it's the normal store for this business.
Yes, and this lifestyle.
And this lifestyle. And it came from, again, people pulling up in the buckboard, coming into town, and they needed to get everything one stop, get all those supplies. There wasn't a mall to go to, there was just a couple of stores in town.
Yes.
And so they picked up all their supplies, they took off, and they went back to the farm.
Yes, and our evolution here is really interesting in that all of the lines and the products that we've brought in to carry are things that we have found a need for. If we had trouble finding quality saddle pads or the right protective gear for our horses, the right outerwear to wear when you're out in the elements, these are lines that we've brought in because we need them, we use them. So we really know what those users, the end customers need because we're using the same products.
Well, we're gonna find out more about this wonderful store in Amarillo, Texas, Coolhorse. In a little bit, we're gonna visit with Matt and Missy Harris, the owners of this store, the founders of this store, and how this whole thing got started and how it wasn't exactly an easy run in the beginning. There was a lot of pain to get where they are today. We'll be right back with On the Road with Noble Outfitters. We're back on the road with Noble Outfitters, and I have got Matt and Missy Harris here with me. I've spent some time touring the store, and I got to tell you, it's just always a fun experience to see what kind of commerce they're doing in a store like this. It's pretty much everything you could imagine that goes on in this store, and we want to hear a little bit of the history of how this got started, if you guys don't mind kind of telling us from the start how this all got going and how it happened, because I know through my experience, it doesn't just happen like we showed up today. It started with a little seed, and there was probably some heartaches along the way to make it happen. So
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we finished up school at Texas Tech. I came from a ranching background, had no retail experience whatsoever.
And where was home?
In the eastern New Mexico, House, New Mexico. Missy grew up in San Angelo. We met at Texas Tech in Lubbock. Was going to go back to the ranch and work, but wanted to get a job for several years before I did. Interviewed with Purina, didn't have anything, but they mentioned a little bitty mom and pop feed store here in Amarillo. It was called Faust Feeds, Tommy Faust. We didn't have any money. We didn't have any savings. That's
America.
Yeah. We literally zero money in our bank account, but we worked our tail off and put a pretty good proposal together and visited banks all over this town. And finally, one little small off the beaten path bank, with the help of the Small Business Administration, took a risk with us and loaned us enough money to buy the little feed store out on the north part of town.
And then from that point, how did we progress?
Well, it was slim pickings at first. My salary was $1,000 a month, and that was tight. I mean, that I could live on that, but we couldn't hardly pay that. Missy and I got married a few months after that. Didn't have anything.
We know anything.
And were you both working the store at that point?
No, I started out waiting tables and then got a teaching job, and so we lived on my teaching salary. And Matt worked at the store 6 in the morning till midnight, lots of times, and
So it's a good thing you had
taught school.
it's a good thing you had a teaching credential to make another income, to be able to come in and help with the family and also probably help with the store at some time.
sometimes
Exactly.
sometimes
It was so thin at first. We didn't have a phone for our first several months of marriage.
No, not a cell phone, like not a landline phone. We had no telephone.
Yeah, things were tight.
But that is an interesting way of looking at how this country was built, because everybody that came here from wherever, because we all came from somewhere, all the stories are the same. Nobody came here and said, well, my great-great-great-grandfather came here and he had a bunch of money and he did this and that. No, all the stories are the same. The only difference is what language they spoke. My folks came from Portugal, so they spoke Portuguese. My great-grandfather came here when he was 12 years old with $5 in his pocket, came over to create a new life for himself and his family, and did so, and didn't even speak the language. So this country started with hardship. So it's not something that's unusual for us. It's not something that we don't understand. And we're tough, and we go and we make it, and we figure it out. So tell me then, from the little feed store, what was the next location? What was the next piece?
Well, just piece by piece, bit by bit, we put in a second location and then a third location, and basically feed stores. It evolved about 10 years later. We were able to set back money and buy a piece of property where we're at now, and is enough property that we could sell some off and fund the first phase of this building. And it was a glorified feed store. And then it just evolved into more tack, more apparel. And then a few years later, we were able to add on trailers. And then we've eased into the online world. And we started out as Faust Feeds, but in 2000, I think we registered our name, and we picked out a website just sitting around the dinner table one night called Coolhorse.com, because we wanted it to be a little more appealing to.
You wanted to be a little more cool.
Well, we wanted it to. We didn't know how many people far away would want to buy from FaustFeed.com.
And when was that? When did you started with the website?
2000.
So you started with the website in 2000, and really that's about at the time when e-commerce actually just got started. It was a new thing to people. So you were really on the cutting edge of being a website.
Yeah.
And one of the most successful parts about the company today, as I understand, is the website, and you're shipping product all over the country and all over the world. You've got customers getting products sent to them from Amarillo, Texas, all over the world of products that they need. And I think you made a good move there when you called the company Coolhorse, because not that Faust isn't a good name for a feed store, but on the other hand, for a website, and the whole difference between marketing and changing into the e-commerce world versus just a one-store location for a feed store, that was a big move. That was a sharp move. Probably one of the turning points in the game for the whole company.
It was probably not that much long-term vision involved in that. That was just a lucky, blessed move.
Absolutely.
We may not have known that at the time.
Yeah.
I'm sure you didn't. I'm sure you didn't. And that's what the beauty of just going through the step by step. I always call it the minefield. If you can just get across that minefield and get to the success point without blowing up, you're going to be okay. And it's tough. It's tough in business. So a lot of times people, they don't get across the minefield. They do blow up before they get going, and they got to start back again and restart. So it's a good thing you stayed in there with a teaching credential and kept a little hamburger helper on the table during those lean years. Absolutely. Well, at the point you're at now, you have a beautiful store and a great e-commerce business. And for us, we go around the country and we celebrate this type of commerce. Really, this is the old American mercantile store. This is a store that people used to come in on the buckboards and on their horses and pick up supplies and go back to the farm and ranch. And it's still that way today. Now, they're coming in pickup trucks and different vehicles, but they still ride their horses. They still have that lifestyle, that Western lifestyle. And it's great that you are still supplying that piece of business out there. And it's also a wonderful thing that the farmers and the ranchers out there identify that there is a local store here that's taking care of that local community, who's employing local people. I mean, I talked to you guys a little bit about sponsorships. You sponsor tons of little rodeos and all kinds of different things, and that's what it's all about. So you're a local store that supports your local community, and the local people that have their farms and ranches around here support you. That's what it's all about. And we want to thank the viewers actually for supporting the small business out there and continuing this American heritage of the small mercantile farm and feed store around the country. You know, there's thousands of farm and feed stores around the country, and they've all got a story that's a little bit similar to your own. And we love hearing those stories, and we really appreciate spending some time with you here today. Appreciate your hospitality, and we look forward to seeing you folks more. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate it. You're on the road with Noble Outfitters. Stay tuned. We've got lots more. We're back with On the Road with Noble Outfitters, and my favorite segment of the show, the Noble Child of the Week. Today I've got with me Trice Johnson. Hello, Trice. Trice, you're a character. I've had some fun talking to you a little bit about what you've been doing and what's going on, and I just want you to tell us a little bit about all your experience. And I mean, you've done so much for being just 10 years old. So tell me, when did you first start riding?
Well, I've always started, well, it's been in our family to like always ride. All of us have always rode, and I guess I don't really know when I started riding, but I was pretty young, I know that. But because all of us have always started young, so we all like had an experience.
And part of you being on the horse and part of you riding was that you were actually trying to help out around the house, right? And help out with your ranch. Because your dad's out there working cattle, right?
Yes, sir.
And so you get out there and help as well?
Yes.
But you do a little riding for fun as well. You rope. Tell me about your sport.
Well, I rope, goat tie, and steer ride. And my favorite event is roping because it's just fun to be on the horse and going fast. And goat tying is when I go full speed down to the goat and I get off, and most of the time I get off going full speed, and I run and tie the goat, and once it stays down for 7 seconds, I get my time.
Cool. And so what is your favorite event? The goat tying?
No, the calf roping.
Calf roping.
Yes.
All right. So, and you've done pretty good at it. I understand you've won a few prizes.
Yes.
And this is one beautiful saddle. How did you win that saddle?
Well, it's for the all-around event, and it's like it isn't just one specific event. It's all of the events, and whoever has the most points total over all the events gets the saddle.
Wow. And where was that?
In the JRCA Association.
Here in Amarillo?
No, we rodeo in different places usually every other weekend.
Every other weekend you're out there rodeoing. Do you enjoy the rodeo?
Yes, I do.
That's great. One of the things I like to talk about when we're on our show is the fact that I think the younger generation today is not getting outside enough. They're not getting outside and playing with the animals and working on the farm and just being active, doing anything. You don't have to be on a farm to be active. You can ride your bike and do all kinds of things, but just to be more active versus staying at home all the time. Do you like sitting at home or do you like being outside?
I like being outside because if I sit inside, I just get bored and I don't have anything to do.
I like it. So you're out there working with the animals and learning to rope. And do you work at home? Do you help your dad and mom?
Yes, I really have been helping my dad during the blizzard. We've been after the blizzard, I think it's been like 4 days we've been out helping my dad.
So you had a blizzard, so you guys had to go out and go try to get all the cattle back.
Yes.
And how many hours were you out there riding?
Well, mostly every day it took all day long.
All day long, out there on a horse, bringing the cattle back in from the blizzard because they got out.
Yes.
Wow. And I understand you lost some cattle too.
Yes, we mainly lost a bunch of them in the Playa Lakes.
That's,
Falling in.
and they fell in the lakes?
Yes.
Wow, that's terrible. Well, that's weather, right? I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. The weather just takes over, and the next thing you know, you got to get out there and fight it and figure it out. It was great that you were able to get out there and help your dad and bring those cattle in.
Yes, because it's really good because that's mainly the only job my dad has, so we don't get really any money if we don't have the cattle.
And if your dad's out there making some money, he's also putting a roof over your head and putting some meat in your belly.
Yes.
What advice would you have for kids to just get out and be active?
Well, I think it's not because inside there's not video games is the big picture. It's like kids they aren't getting out because they don't really have done it before because they haven't ever like got out and because they've just been inside cooped up playing on their video games. And I think they should be outside. They should be riding a bike because most kids don't even know how to ride a bike.
Isn't that crazy? I wore 3 sets of tires off my bike.
Yes, and I think kids just need to get out more.
Well, I think that's great advice, and it's sure a pleasure visiting with you.
Me too.
We've had a fun visit with Trice Johnson. Stay tuned to On the Road with Noble Outfitters. Next up, Recipe of the Week. You won't want to miss that. Today, co-owner of Coolhorse, Missy Harris, is going to share a very important old recipe with us today that really means something to the family.
It does. This is Santa Fe soup, and this recipe was given to me by a friend of ours when Matt and I first got married and were first starting out. She kind of took us under her wing and fed us a lot and helped us plant trees, and she did all kinds of stuff for us.
She was very neighborly.
She was. She kept kids, and she introduced me to this recipe, and it was easy and it was cheap, and so I make it a lot now.
It seems like something that the whole family would like. You know, there's some kick to it. You know, there's some spice in the background.
Yes,
but
yes.
Tell me a little bit about the recipe. You know, I'm a chef.
I know. That's why I was a little nervous about you tasting my soup.
No, this is absolutely delicious. So you made it. You made it through. Tell me a little bit about the recipe. How do you put this together?
Well, it's really simple. I just saute some onions and some bell peppers and add some ground beef and some sausage and let all that cook and brown, and then add Rotel tomatoes and ranch-style beans and corn and a lot of Velveeta cheese, and a lot of Velveeta cheese with Mexican in it. So it's got some jalapenos in it, and sometimes my family will add sour cream or jalapenos. And
Now, the other thing you could do if you really want to spice it up, you could actually put fresh jalapenos in.
Sure.
And you could take it in a different direction. This is a perfect kind of one of those recipes that you could move so the kids could like it just where it's at.
Sure.
But if the adults wanted a little something more spicy, they could definitely add some kick to it.
Yes.
Well, that's wonderful. It's a wonderful recipe. Thank you for sharing this with us, and thank you for sharing it with the folks out there. And they're going to love making this at home and hopefully making it a little tradition for their family.
I hope so. Thanks.
Thank you, Missy.
Thank
it's
you
a
so
pleasure.
much.
Thank you very much. And we really appreciate your hospitality today.
I'm so glad you came.
Join us again next week for another great recipe and another great show. You're On the Road with Noble Outfitters. We'll see you next week. I wonder if sometimes people think it's a little bit funny that at Noble Outfitters, we make things like beautiful clothing and shirts and gloves and Mud's boots and manure forks and hoof picks and bracelets. Do they ever think that's a little bit strange that this one company makes all these different things?
No, not at all. We can have a customer come in here that's bought a Noble shirt, and she knows the quality of that shirt. Next time she comes in, she may be needing a Noble vest. Now she sees the forks. Let's get us a fork. She comes up to the front counter and sees the hoof pick display. They have hoof picks too. So she just, I mean, you can see that Noble's just an all around, you know, they've got everything and the quality is top notch and won't let you down.